Hey, it's Poonam, and today we are going to be doing a traditional Gujarati meal, which includes green mug, which is a type of lentil. And so it's a staple where I come from, and I grew up with it, and it's one of my favorites. However, since I've had my 2 kids and I work full time, I'm not able to stay in the kitchen for very long. So this handy dandy Instant Pot lets me cook my favorite meals in very few minutes, and I don't have to spend a long time in the kitchen. So what we would like to first do is review over the ingredients, and we'll make sure and list it all out on the channel as well. So let's go ahead and step through all of that. So we first have our first starting ingredients, which is jeera, or in English, cumin. We also have rye, which is mustard seeds. We also have dried coriander seed. We have chili powder. We have urad, which is turmeric. And we also have ing, which in English is asafoetida. We have some cilantro for garnish. We have 2 tablespoons of salt. We have chilies, which are the long, thin chilies. There's about 3 of those blended up. And then we got about 3 cloves of garlic blended as well. I've diced up a medium-sized onion, and I've diced up 2 tomatoes. And I have 1 lime for the amount of mug we're gonna cook today. So we have 1 cup of mug today, which will feed about 4 people if you have 4 adults in your family. If you are just 2 adults in your family and 2 children, it will also be sufficient, and that will help make sure everybody gets the right amount of food. So in order to start, it's not very hard with the settings, but what we're gonna do is step by step go through the settings. So what I'm gonna do is first, we're gonna turn on the Instant Pot to saute. And again, we're gonna make sure it's on the normal setting. And we don't need to worry about time. It's just gonna heat up, and as we go, we will see how long we need to stay on saute function. But now it's telling you that it's on and it's heating up. So we're gonna go ahead and add the oil. It's about 2 tablespoons of oil. So we squirt that in there, and it's gonna heat up. So wait for a few minutes or a few seconds to let it heat up and get to the right temperature. Now that the oil is heated, you'll know that it's heated once you give it a little whirl and it looks a little bit thinner than when you put it in. You know it's ready. And so what we're gonna do is we're first gonna go in order that we had talked about when I introduced the spices. So you're just gonna kind of throw that in there, and you can stir it if you'd like. And I like to stir it just to make sure that all the ingredients are in the oil and cooking. So kind of stay away from the middle region of your Instant Pot, and the ingredients will stay on the outer rim because that's where the oil will sit. So we can let that cook for a few seconds. Now one good tip, whenever I cook, I don't usually cook on the island without the Ventahood. So you can actually put the whole Instant Pot, if you have an outlet next to your stove, you can put the whole Instant Pot on top of your stove and let the Ventahood on or your fan on, and that will help that smell kind of not spread that through your house if you're not really a fan of that. That's what I usually do, and that way you don't have to worry about it. But for the video purposes, we're not gonna put it under the Ventahood for you right now. Now, next thing that we're gonna add into this is you're gonna add your turmeric, your ing, and your chili powder inside. And you're gonna add your onions. And you're just gonna mix that around to make sure everything spreads out evenly with it. And we're gonna let it cook here until it's about a translucent yellow color, which will be about 2 to 3 minutes. So just let it sit for a bit, and once that's ready, we'll move forward with the next few steps. So now our onions are ready to go. You can see that they're that translucent yellowy color, and they're smaller in size. So what we're now gonna add next is your tomatoes. And you're also gonna add the rest of the spices that were left. So we have the garlic and the chili. So we're gonna add that in. Make sure I get all of it out of the little bowl. You're gonna add the salt and the coriander. So we got all that in there. You're gonna give it a good stir so the salt can disperse and the natural juices can come out of the tomatoes. Help moisten up the onions and spread the flavor a bit. And I usually like to add the lime or the lemon at this point just to get the flavor in there. I have a little trick that with my green lentils, I like to use limes, and with my yellow lentils, I like to use lemons. It's truly your preference, but that's what I found is favorable in our household. So we just squeeze a whole lime into this. Make sure we get all the juices out. I'm a fork and lime kind of girl because the lime squeezer doesn't always get the juice out for me. So we're gonna go ahead and squeeze all that in there. Let it stir that a bit, let it sit for 2 minutes. So we're gonna let it cook for 2 minutes just to get a little bit soupy, and then we'll add the lentils in. All right, so now that we've added the tomatoes and we've let the juices kind of spread out, you can see that it's a little bit more liquidy than when we started, which is a good point to add your lentils. So we're gonna go ahead and add the lentils into the Instapot. You can give it a stir just to spread all the tomatoes and onions. And then we're gonna add the water. And so the measurement for the water is a little tricky sometimes, and so you may have to play around with it. But I have found that if you're using 1/2 cup of green lentils, you'll need 2 cups of water. And so for us, we have 1 cup of green lentils, so we're gonna be doing 4 cups of water. So that's a really good way of gauging. You may need to add more or less dependent on how you like it. And this type of lentil dish, you can eat as a soup, you can eat it with rice. I grew up eating it with roti or chapati. And since we don't have a lot of time, we can't always make fresh roti at home. You can use frozen parathas, and that's what our family does. The girls love it with that. And my oldest loves it with rice. So however you'd like to have it, it's up to you. But we can stir that all, make sure everything's mixed up nice and good. If you want it more soupier, you can always add, or more soupy, you can always add more water to it. So it's truly up to you. The other really cool thing about the Instapot is that you do not have to change the settings according to how much you put in here. So if you put 1/2 cup of lentils or a full cup of lentils, the timing's all gonna be the same, which is a really nice feature of this. You don't have to think more when you have more volume. So what we're gonna do from here is we're gonna turn off the saute function. So we're gonna go over to this cancel button. So once we get to the off setting, you're gonna hit cancel and it'll go to off, and we're gonna go to manual mode. And always make sure you're on high pressure. The way you're gonna change that if you need to is you're gonna hit this pressure button and you can see it goes to low or high. We're gonna stay on high for this dish. And then you're gonna scroll your timer down to 14. And again, you can adjust it how you like your lentils. Some people like their lentils softer and a little bit more kind of disintegrated. Some people like them more whole. So you can do 14 is a good gauge, but you can do less or more depending on how you like your dish. So now it's on, and we're gonna go ahead and put the lid on. And you're gonna hit the little music playing. And so when you close it, it'll lock in. Make sure the vent is closed. You don't want any of the steam to escape. And then when it's hot enough, the silver prong is gonna pop up, and that's when you know it's on the right setting for heat. So it'll stay on until it gets to the right heat, and then you'll see your time, 14, pop up, and that means the timer has started, and it's gonna count down from there, and we'll get back to it when it's done. Okay, everybody, so the timer's done, and it started to beep, so we're all back here, and again, we're on the setting where it's the natural release of steam. It's up to you. You can either wait 2 or 3 minutes for that to go down and the steam to come out by itself, or if you're like me and you're in a rush to eat, you can take the steam out manually. And so that's, again, you turn your valve and you open. Make sure you don't stand behind it because you don't want it in your face. So take a few seconds to empty the steam out. But once we open it, it's gonna be ready to go and ready to eat dinner. So now that all the steam is released, again, the silver prong is down, so that means we can open it. Don't ever try to open it if it's up. It's very unsafe. So we're gonna go ahead and open it. Be careful when you're opening. Put the lid on the side. And as you can see, the tomatoes are floating at the top, the lentils will sink at the bottom, but you can see that it is pretty much finished and ready to serve. And so we can get our bowl. And sometimes you may want the lentils to be done a little bit longer. And so the best thing to do with that is just close the lid again, set your settings on manual mode again, and you can add 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, depending on how soft you want your lentils. So that is a good trick to know. And we are ready to eat. There is one thing that I wanted to add. Some people like a little sweetness to their lentils, so you can either add regular sugar or brown sugar. On our recipe, we'll add that in there, and you can add it as directed or how you would like. But we're ready to go. So some people like to have some lime on top. I like putting extra cilantro and extra lime. That's my preference. But you're ready to go with dinner. So dinner's ready.